In this lesson, we're going to discuss different types of data. The essential question is, what is the difference between continuous data and discrete data? Now let's connect this to what we already know. Different types of data can be collected and analyzed. Some data is continuous, while other data is discrete. Now, continuous data can be measured with and broken down into smaller increments and still have meaning. If we look here, we can see a line showing us week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. But we can break each week down into 7 different days. So we can break down our unit into smaller increments. Instead of measuring in weeks, we could measure it in days. So we can see that here, that the increment for this scale is 1 week. The data can be measured in weeks or in smaller units of time, such as days or even hours. Now let's take a look at this example. Beginning when Omar was 4 years old, his parents have measured his height on a growth chart in their house. For a class assignment, Omar copied the growth chart as a diagram on a sheet of paper. Tell whether the data in Omar's diagram is continuous. We can see this here. When Omar was 4 years old, he was 39 inches. 5 years old, 42 inches. 6 years old, 45 inches, and so on. Each year, it tells us how many inches tall he was. Let's answer the questions to solve the problem. What unit was used for the age data? Well, if we look here, we're measuring it in years. So that's the unit we're using for the age data. What unit was used for the height data? Well, we're using inches. Could the data have been measured using smaller units? If so, give an example. And if not, explain. Well, yes. If we used a smaller unit for years, we could use years as a greater unit than months, or even weeks, or days, or minutes. So any of those are smaller units. So months is a smaller unit than years. In inches, instead of measuring in full inches, we can measure it in half inches, or even in quarter inches. Quarter inches are smaller than inches, so there is a smaller unit that we could use. So the data displayed in the diagram is continuous. Now let's look at a different type of data. Mr. Hansen is collecting data for a local theater. In the diagram below, he recorded the number of people who attended each show on a given day. Tell whether the data in Mr. Hansen's diagram is discrete. Now, discrete data has a countable number of values and can often be classified into categories. So we can see here we have Tuesday's attendance. At show 1, there were 88 people in attendance. Show 2, there were 24. Show 3, 73. Show 4, 82. Show 5, 36. What data is counted in this example? Well, it looks like the number of people in attendance. So let's write that here. Into what categories is the data classified? Well, it looks like it's classified into the show number. So show 1, show 2, show 3. So it's the different shows. The data consists of counted numbers of people and is classified into categories by show number. So the data in Mr. Hansen's diagram is discrete. Now let's try some on our own. Answer the questions to determine whether the data collected is continuous or discrete. Susie is growing a lima bean plant for a science experiment. She measures the height of the plant each day at the same time and records her data in the table. Could the data have been measured by using smaller units? Well, instead of measuring the height in inches, maybe she could measure it in half inches. Or maybe she's measuring the height in centimeters and she could measure it in millimeters. So yes, the data could be measured using smaller units. She also measures the height of the plant each day, but she could also choose to measure it each hour, and that's a smaller unit as well. So the answer here is that yes, the data could be measured using smaller units. Is the data counted? No, she's not really counting anything here. So is the data collected continuous or discrete? Well, in this case, because it could be measured by using smaller units, we're going to call it continuous. Now let's look at this example. Jason is bird watching in his backyard. As he observes a bird, he marks a tally sheet for the bird species. At the end of the day, he counts the total number of tally marks for each species of bird and records the numbers in a journal. Now, could the data have been measured by using smaller units? Well, no, because he either sees a whole bird or not. He's not going to count by using half of a bird. That would be silly. So no, the data cannot be measured by using smaller units. Is it counted? Yes, because he's counting the number of birds he sees of each species. So this data is going to be discrete. Now it's your turn to identify different types of data.